Welcome back to another deck profile, this time featuring Etemon or Sukamon, whatever you want to call the deck, monkey poop deck, etc. But yeah, this is the deck profile for the Sukamon Etemon deck in EX5 format. This is a little token, pretty cool. But yeah, without further ado, here's the deck that I played with at locals. First up for the eggs, 4 copies of Pokemon. There's not a lot of options for black eggs. There is the starter deck Koromon, which I've seen some people use. But I just like the potential, getting an extra card in your hand. We don't necessarily draw a lot in this deck. It's not the best searches. So an egg that helps with that is beneficial in my opinion. For the levels 3s, starting off, we have 3 copies of BT11 Chumon. This is one of the 2 Chumon that does cost 1 to Digivolve. And obviously that's not ideal, but its effect is too good. It reduces the cost into a Sukamon by 1, so it'll make our Sukamons cost 1 to go into rather than 2. And it has the very nice inheritable that as long as it has Sukamon or Etemon in its name, on deletion it'll bring back a Chumon. This allows you to keep kind of looping your Chumons, and swarming the field makes your stuff stickier than they expect. Important to note, and I'll mention this now, is that you can bring back any Chumon, not just this one. And there's a lot of Chumons with on-play effects that are very beneficial because of this inheritable that a couple of Chumons share. It's good to run 1 to 2 copies of every Chumon, I find, because then you can bring it back and play it when the situation is good. It's all you need to do is have 1 in the trash, and then you can keep playing it back almost as much as you like, really. So yeah, this is at 3 copies. Used to be at 4, but there's another 1 cost 1. I don't like too many of them. Next up, 4 copies of the BT13 Chumon. We run this because this is the only Chumon with a good inheritable to bring out another Chumon that costs 0 to Digivolve into. Simple as that. Its on-play effects actually very nice. Trashing a Sukamon or Etemon to add back a card with Sukamon in its name. The main downside is we can't add back our Etemons. So be mindful that like our level 6s, we have no way to add back our level 6s from the trash. But this is good if you have too much of one level and you need more level 4, more level 5, etc. This is also why we don't need that many King Sukamons in the deck, because we can always add King Sukamon back. Another thing to note is it says a card with Sukamon in its name, which means this does work with Sukamons Curse. Next up, 2 copies of the new EX5 Chumon. Again, same inheritable to play back a Chumon from trash on deletion. This one its on play only works during your opponent's turn, and it lets you reveal the top 3 to play out any Digimon with Sukamon in its name. This is kind of a card I'm iffy about. It's situationally amazing, but also half the time does nothing. It has a nice inheritable, but it costs 1. Unlike this one, it's not always as reliable because it doesn't actually help you Digivolve for 1 less. And the on-play is only during your opponent's turn. So it's definitely not something you always want to see. But having at least 1 in trash is good. So I run 2 to consistently see 1 of them in trash. The big thing about this, not only is playing out a Sukamon potentially from the top 3, is because it just says a Digimon with Sukamon in its name, this can bring out King Sukamon if you reveal it from the top 3. And bringing out King Sukamon during your opponent's turn is crazy because they won't expect it and you'll potentially turn them into poop. Some people don't like this at all. It can be a bit unreliable, but I find it to be useful to have at least 1 of in trash. So I feel like 1 to 2 copies is a must. Next we have 2 copies of the BT14 Chumon. How many of this you run depends on how much you like the security Sukamon, obviously, and Sukamons Curse, because they're the only 2 Sukamon cards that you actually want to put in your security. It's yellow, but it still digivolves in black, so it's no problem. The adding back your top security is mandatory. So sometimes you will just add something and just put like a random Sukamon card back at the top, because that's what you want to do unless you want to go down in security. This on deletion is minus 3000 instead of playing out a Chumon, so that's also something to note. It's a nice card, and obviously it's really good if you have the security Sukamon or Sukamons Curse in your hand. But other times it is the weakest one. Again, I find its occasional usefulness makes it nice to have in the deck, but I don't rely on it too much. So that's why I only have it at 2 copies. Last but not least, I run just one single copy of BT3 Chumon. How many you want to run depends on your locals, like your meta. If they use a lot of memory gaining stuff, then obviously you could bump this up to 2 or 3 copies, however many you want. I find it to be averagely useful. Unlike prior Etemon decks, we're more focused on building a big stack than building a wide board. So I feel like, we just digivolve on this half the time, and then it's the most useless one because it doesn't actually have an inheritable. But feel free to bump this up to 2. Just take out any one of the 2 ones you don't like and bump this up to 2 if that's what you prefer. Moving on to our level 4s, we have 4 copies of the good old BT13 Sukon. This is the most reliable Sukamon in the deck. It's one of the few cards that searches pretty much anything. Also builds our trash, not too bad. Not much else to say, it's just a staple of the deck. It has the common Sukamon inheritable that if this Digimon would be deleted, we can delete another Digimon with Sukamon in its name. This could be used to delete one of our other stuff, or more importantly, it means if we could be deleted, we can delete an opponent's Digimon that's been turned into a Sukamon. And that's like really a good form of removal. But yeah, this is the searcher one, so we definitely have to run 4 of it. Next up, 4 copies of the BT13 Platinum Sukamon. This is what really annoys opponents. We often kamikaze this into security and Digivolve 1. It's just a reliable Digivolve 1. If the opponent's removal is mainly deletion based, they have no real way to avoid us doing this. And yeah, it's potentially devastating. It still has the protection and inheritable too, so definitely run 4 Platinum Sukamon. Finally, for level 4, we run 4 copies of the newer BT14 Sukamon. This is kind of the worst Sukamon to digivolve into, because it doesn't really do anything to the opponent, and it doesn't have the protection inheritable. But this one has this security effect that at the end of the battle, you'll play this out for free, just like the good old security Digimon. And yeah, so not only is that something the opponent has to worry about, we have 2 different cards that can put this into security, one of them being a good old BT14 Chumon. And because of that, it's definitely a 4 of, just because we can see it in security by itself and we can put it into security. Its on deletion isn't as good, but it's actually very useful still to have in the deck, the minus 3000. One problem with the deck is we make them into poop, but we don't actually have a way to get rid of it, especially if we like swing at security and live. So that an on deletion like this to give minus 3000 actually helps get rid of the Sukamon that we turn them into. That's 12 level 4s. Might seem like a lot of level 4s, but we really need to keep going into Sukamon, keep bringing them out. We use them to put into security, so you definitely want at least 12. So good number. Moving on to our level 5s, we're starting off with 3 copies of the BT11 King Sukamon. Not much to say about it. It's really strong card, but it's only really strong once you have 3 or more cards with Sukamon in the name of the trash to turn the opponents into poop. He's also one of our surprising offensive cards because it gets security attack +1, which means if we've turned them into poop, we have this card, we have another Sukamon out. He's hitting for up to 3 checks, And if he dies in security, we just delete whatever he turned into poop anyways. So really good, turns off a lot of opponents' effects by turning them into Sukamon. I see a number of people bumping this down to 2 copies because it's not good early game. It's almost useless until you have 3 Sukamon in trash. I mean, unless the opponent has 16 or more cards and they're trash, but by that point you probably have 3 Sukamons in trash, so that part never really comes up. It's got the nice protection inheritable, which all the other Sukamons have. So I can see the argument for running this at 2 copies. I feel like if you're not running this Chumon that can potentially play it out for free, and you're not running Sukamons Curse, then this could be at 2 copies rather than 3. So keep that in mind, that it's a really, really good card, but we don't want to see it as our first level 5. Also, this card can add it back from trash, so that's another reason why you could bump this down to 2. However, I wanted to see 3 just to reliably see it whenever I needed. Next up, we run 4 copies of the BT14 Etemon. This is the one that has on delete, goes to the bottom of your security, and has the security effect. If you have 3 or more Digimon with Sukamon in the name in the trash, you get to play a level 6 Etemon card from your hand for free. Really, really nice card. Only downside in this deck is that it's not yellow and black, which means if you're playing like black searching options, you will whiff on this card, and that has happened, and it kind of sucks. And I don't really want to run the yellow searching cards because there's so much like Platinum, Chumon. There's more that's just black than just yellow. But yeah, 4 copies of this, really good. It's inheritable, also just puts it back into security. So it's really nice to basically, hopefully, eventually play a free level 6, as long as this is in your stack. So really, really nice card. If they hit in security early, it does nothing, but none of your other level 5s do anything if they hit in security anyway, so it's not the end of the world. The last level 5 is 3 copies of the new EX5 Etemon. He works really well with the new Metal Etemon. They're like meant to go together. He also works well with one other tech card that I've got in the deck. Basically, on play when digivolving, minus 3000, and makes them have to attack at the start of main phase. You can use this to get rid of a rookie, obviously, just by the minus 3000. But you can also, if they have like a level 5, level 4, etc., you can make them attack at the start of the turn. And that's really good because you stop them going up into a level 6 before they attack. Its inheritable is, when they attack, reveal top 3, play out black or yellow Digimon with 3 play cost or less. Fun fact, this doesn't have to play anything from the archetype, it's literally any black or yellow Digimon. So you could replace the rookies or have some kind of funny tech option to potentially play out. I don't think it's reliable, but yeah, anyway. Free body on board. Effects useful. Only downside is that if the opponent doesn't attack, or you're not going into a level 6 onto it, it's not the best long term. It's more like a really impactful 1 or 2 turns with this card, and then it kind of falls off. But yeah, that's the Metal Etemon. Oh, not Metal, just regular Etemon. So in total, if you counted, that's actually 10 level 5s. So a fair few level 5s, but no, we can't add back Etemons from the trash. So sometimes I find myself running out of level 5s. We can always trash these to add back more Sukamons, but we can't trash Sukamons to add back Etemons. So that's why I lean on a higher Etemon ratio. For level 6, starting off with 2 copies of the BT11 Metal Etemon. It's still a really great card. What else can you say? Look at top 4, play out anything of your archetype that adds up to 7 play cost or less. So that's 1 level 5, 2 level 4, level 4, level 3, you know, whatever combination you like. Yeah, it's good. Only downside is after it does its effect, it does nothing. Like, it's got no other effect. Unless you're going into level 7 on top of it, it just doesn't really do anything. So it's really good at swarming the board, but it doesn't do anything else. And for that reason, it's not as strong as it kind of used to be. Yeah, it just makes bigger board, but doesn't make a stronger board necessarily. Unless you hit like a really nice cards off the top 4, but that can be very luck based. Next up, we run 2 copies of the BT13 King Etemon. Again, in some matchups, he wins you the matchup by himself, and against other decks, he's totally useless. He makes all of our Sukamon and Etemons have blocker and can't be returned to hand or deck. So really good against decks that would bounce your cards bottom deck. We want to be deleted, so non-deletion removal is a big weakness of the deck, and this card helps to solve it. You know, it doesn't fix everything, but it does help against most non-deletion removal. And then also once per turn, if something is deleted, give something minus 3000 and security -1. Against something like Garurumon, giving them the sec -1 just means the whole turn ends. Like, what can they do to your security when that's sec -1? The minus 3000 can also be used just to remove other rookies as well. Downside of this card is that by himself, he doesn't do a lot either. He's really strong for your board, but by himself, he's just a 12k blocker. You know, and that's not anything to really write home about. He needs himself plus some more bodies to really make an impact. And that's why I run just 2 copies, because you really just want to see one of him and then some of your other level 6s. The last level 6 we run is 3 copies of the new EX5 Metal Etemon. He's the real star of the show now, and he works especially good with the EX5 Etemon. If you don't know, on play or when digivolving, you can delete a Digimon or Tamer with play cost 3 or more. Play cost 3, and then for each card with Etemon or Sukon in its name, you add 1. This is actually crazy because the longer the game goes, this guy just gets huge in his deletion. It counts literally all of these cards, and it even counts Sukamons Curse as well. But yeah, you'll find out that even by mid-game, you can start deleting level 5s and level 6s with this guy's effect. Early game, you're probably limiting yourself to a level 3, 4, or Tamer. Note that you only delete 1 card, so you cannot Hades force them and delete all the Tamers. You'll just delete 1 thing. This other effect is also very important for the deck. When they attack, you can put a card with Etemon or Sukamon to the top of your security, and then redirect the attack either to himself, so he can kind of act as a blocker, or to your security. That's if they attack him, and you'd rather them attack security than attack him. This is an amazing card, because it means when they attack, you can force them to hit this Etemon, and potentially play out another level 6 for free. You can force them to hit a Sukamon, get a free body. You can also force them to hit Sukamons Curse, which could ruin their game plan. Yeah, so very, very strong card. And in total, that is 7 level 6s. That might seem high, but considering that we can potentially play a level 6s for free, I find that 7 is the perfect number. In fact, I could even go higher amount of level 6s, but I'll leave that for later to talk about. That's it for the Digimon. So if you want just like the general gist of the Digimon I'm running, this is it. The rest is all kind of tech choices and searching cards, so you can kind of vary this up however you want. The first choice is 3 copies of Defense Training. This could be, I guess it could be the yellow. Because I run black eggs, I like to run the black Defense Training, because it works if I've whiffed on hitting a rookie. Only downside, mainly, is that it will bottom deck this Etemon. You can't grab this one. It also bottom decks the Chumon, but I don't really care that much if I bottom deck that Chumon. But yeah, 3 Defense Training. What can I say? Card's good, helps you digivolve for less, searches, cost efficient. The reason you run training in any deck. You could bump this up to 4 if you want to. I only actually own 3, so that's why I only run 3. But totally your choice if you want to run 4. Next up, 1 copy of Pride Memory Boost. Some people run 0, some people run 2. I find that when we were focused on making a wide board, this was really good. However, nowadays, I really want to just have Sukamon, Etemon, get into one of the level 6s. I really want to make a level 6 stack. Like, that's the priority, not making a wide board. And this doesn't help as much to making my level 6 stack. Because it costs 4, so we give our opponent a lot of memory. It's still useful, because we can bring out all our Chumons and Sukamons, so it's still nice. But it doesn't actually really search our deck for something that helps us go into our level 6. And it's kind of expensive. I mean, relative to just running more training options. So yeah, personally, I feel you could run 0 to 2 copies of this card. I run 1, because it's still kind of nice. But you can run 2, run 0, up to you. Next we go on to another card that is kind of, has a lot of differing opinions amongst people who play the deck, and that's Sukamons Curse. This card is both the brickiest card I've ever seen in the deck, and the best card I've ever seen in the deck at the same time. Its hand effect is kind of ass. It lets you Digivolve into a Digimon with Sukamon without paying the cost, and ignoring its Digivolution requirements. The main use for this is that it lets us go from any of our Chumon into King Sukamon for 3. Because we ignore the Digivolution requirements, we can go straight from 3 to 5. Of course, we could use this card to go from 4 to 5, but that doesn't make any sense, because we just Digivolve for 3 anyway, so no point using this card. It also, I guess, lets us make any of our level 6s or 5s also go down into a level 5. But again, I find that doesn't really come up often at all. I'd rather just make my Chumon go up into level 5. Note that it is 2 color, so we'll need both black and yellow on the field to use it. It doesn't ignore color requirements, so that is important to note. But yeah, its hand effect, pretty bad in my opinion. It doesn't come up that often, and it can only go into King Sukamon, and that's not the one we want to go into early game. The main reason we run this is mainly to put it into our security with the Chumon or the Metal Etemon, and its security effect is the bee's knees. It turns them into a Sukamon, which obviously can totally ruin the game plan, makes them white, 3000, different name, and it makes them a Sukamon until the end of our turn. Unlike King Sukamon, who makes them a Sukamon into the end of their turn, this one lasts to the end of our turn, much longer. And it means our King Sukamon can make something else into poop, gain a lot of security effects, really boost this card. Yeah, so this card, very, very, very nice in security, but very, very average in our hand. We don't actually really want to see that much in our hand, except, you know, see in our hand to then put it into our security. Some people don't like running it at all. I find that it's a semi-searchable card that we can add back from trash with this one, because it just adds a Sukamon card. And this card, always treated as having Sukamon in its name. Nice. Yeah, so personal preference if you like this card. Against some matchups, for example, Greymon and Garurumon, turning them into poop pretty much turns off their stack. They lose all their inheritables and can't Digivolve on it. But against other decks, like maybe like the Diva deck, trying to think of other things, but there's other decks that this deck doesn't, it just doesn't do anything against some decks. Mainly if they're trait-based evolution. But yeah, it's a good card, but I wouldn't run too many because it doesn't do a lot by itself. It's more an option you want to have to continuously add back from trash, put in security, add back from trash, put in security. So that's why I find 2 is more than enough just to see 1. Moving on to the last 3 cards of the deck. Again, we're getting to the more tech part based of the profile, and that's 1 copy of Memory Tamer Tai Kamiya from the starter deck. I don't really like this card. Honestly, I would replace it with another training option, either 2 Pride, 4 of the training, etc. for more consistency. However, I was in a rush to make the deck when I played, so I just chucked this card in. It's a Memory Tamer, which is obviously nice, and it means that our King Etemon or Metal Etemon can become 14k blockers, because if attacks redirected, we can give something plus 2000 and we draw one. If you really like this card, you can bump it up to 2. I was trying it out at 2, but somehow when I was running it at 2, I always saw 2, and I don't actually want to see 2 of this card. But yeah, it's fine. It's a good card. We have to play it for 4 unless they're hidden security, so I can totally see why some people run it at 0. But it's an option. One of the cards of all time. Next option, I like to run at least one option that's hard removal. The downside of Sukamons Curse is that it turns them into poop, but it doesn't actually remove them. We're relying on like a minus DP inheritable or King Sukamon to get rid of him, but Sukamons Curse on its own doesn't get rid of anything. So having at least one option that does get rid of something is nice. I chose to run 1 copies of Heaven Judgment. Security effects kind of average, minus 12,000, doesn't always get rid of something, especially for all the 13k stuff running around. But its hand effect's really nice. Even with the Chumon, it's minus 6,000 3 times. So you do a lot of board wiping. Works well with other DP minus inheritables. Obviously one-shots anything that we turned into poop. This could be replaced with your personal choice of removal. You can run Ultimate Flare if you want an option that's searchable by Black Training. You can run Death X in this spot. Up to you. We're really at the point that you can run whatever you want that you like. But these are just some options. Final card, which is actually really funny and actually worked out way better than I expected, is 1 copy of a Aulong Mon Ace. So when I said earlier that I was running 7 level 6s, but I could see more, this is a great level 6 to bump up however many level 6s we run. So this is actually our 8th level 6 in the deck. When we go into this card, we'll bounce a level 5 or lower. The unsuspending of a Diva, 4 Great Dragons, etc. isn't as relevant to this deck. I mean, we just like unsuspend ourselves, I guess. And then on deletion, we delete the opponent's Digimon with the highest level. Just a really surprise thing. They might swing at our Etemon based stuff. They might just swing and think we got no blockers, no effects. But we can go into this, catch them by surprise. This card is another card that works well with this Etemon that forces them to attack. Even if we don't have memory to go into this Etemon, EX5 Etemon, then EX5 Metal, we can play this the past turn, make them attack, and then when they attack, Blastage evolve into a Aulong. And if we did that on a level 5 or lower, we just get rid of it. And that's really nice. Catches people off guard a lot. And for that reason, I want to find room to bump a Aulong Mon Ace up to 2 copies, just to see it more. It's really, really strong card. That's it for the deck profile. I know it's a longer video, but I just wanted to kind of explain the reasoning behind some of the choices. Feel free to take a screenshot of the screen now. You know that there's a little bit of glare on the Etemon. That's a little bit better, maybe. There you go, that should be a little better. But feel free just to take a screenshot of this if you want to see an example deck profile. And now I'm just going to talk about some options that you can change or remove. For the Chumons, this one, if you don't like it, could be reduced to 1 or 0 copies. Again, I prefer at least 1 copy of every Chumon, because you can play a Chumon from trash. That means as soon as one's in trash, you have the option of playing it back. But if you don't like this one, it could be run at 1. And if you take this down to 1, bump this one up to 4. So that's an option. This one again can be run up to 2 or 3 copies, depending on how good it is in your meta or your local's environment. So feel free to bump this up if it's good. I just don't find it that useful where I play, and I find that I just digivolve on it and it does nothing. This one can be taken down to increase this one. So that's option for level 3. Level 4, nothing I'd really change. There is the new Targetmon, the one that looks like the monkey with like the shoes on its fists. But I think that card's ass because it costs 3 to digivolve into. And the only good thing is that it's a low level blocker. So I don't like Targetmon at all. Throw it in the bin. Level 5s, run 10 level 5s. You might find that that's too much, but I find that it's not enough, almost. We end up seeing the Etemons in the trash so much, and we can trash Etemons with this to add back more level 4s. So we can always just use excess 5s to go into more 4s. So that's why I'd rather have 10 level 5s, because we can't get these back. King Sukamon is probably the one that I could reduce, or the security Etemon. Because I want to try maybe running 4 copies of this, to go with 3 of this and maybe 2 Aulong Ace. That makes 5 Digimon that have, well, a good when the opponent attacks. So this could be bumped up to 4. And saying that, it's a very personal choice. You know, could bump King Sukamon down to 2, could bump this down to 3, could bump this up to 4. Up to you. Just a couple options. There's no really other level 5. There is the new promo Etemon, which I actually don't have, the one that came out in EX5 that has Digivolve 1. And that one could be run at 1 copy as well. It's 2 colors. Feel free to look it up. I don't have the cards, so I can't show you. Level 6s, not really much a change. You have to run 2 King to reliably see it. And I wouldn't run more than 2 because he's just protection. This one's actually really good, and if I somehow had room, I'd run 4 copies of it. So if you don't like any of these 2, you run 4 of this. I still have the Swarm, and part of me also wants to bump that up to 3. If you hate the King, you could run 3 and 4. If you don't like the Swarm, 3 and 4. It's really up to you, but I wouldn't change it too much. These you can change however you want. I already mentioned how you can change stuff. Run more searching options, cool. Run more pride if you want, cool. Take out Sukamons Curse if you hate it, cool. Run 2 memory Tamer if you want, or 0. Your choice of removal. Aulong Ace is a cool tech card, but you know it's going to end up trash after time. So you might be like, card's bad, run 0. Or it could be like, oh, card's kind of cool, run 2. Options include in this spot, obviously 4th training boost, 2nd pride, running Death X. You could run like 1 or 2 copies of Death X, that's pretty good. Running removal like Ultimate Flare. That's pretty much it. I suppose that the level 5 ace, like Magna Angemon ace, is another option. But I don't really like running too many aces, and it's better on the top end because you still get all the nice level 5 inheritables, whilst the level 5 you don't really get that much good from the level 4 inheritables, if that makes sense. Also, Magna Angemon Ace won't be able to go into these 4, whilst Aulong Ace can go into every level 5. Okay, that's the end of the deck profile. Hope you enjoyed. Feel free to comment any questions or your comments on the deck. I am trying to max rarity the deck, taking a while. As you can see, I've got some pre-release, missing some others. Anyways, that's all. See you later.